Education together at 6:34. So we stand for the Pledge of Allegiance.
I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Next item on the agenda, Madam Secretary, would you call the roll, please?
Diana Winston.
Present.
Lori Hicks. Present. Anthony Johnson.
Present.
Misha Early. Present. Cheryl Flesher. Present. Amanda Flesher. Present. Shirley Halbert.
Present. Next item on the agenda is superintendent comment. Oh, I'm sorry, approval of agenda. Is there any corrections to the agenda? There are none. The agenda will be read as written. Next item on the agenda is superintendent communications.
Thank you, Madam President. Well, good evening, everyone. Thank you for being here tonight and joining us here in the SOAR Learning Lab studio. I have several communications this evening. As you know, it's a very busy time of the school year. But first and foremost, I would like to recognize that last Tuesday, we had an incredible spring band concert that took place over in the auditorium at Thurston High School, in which we had a very strong showing from our alumni in recognizing the 34 years of dedicated service of Mr. Ed Lucius, who has been the director of bands for a long time, who is actually going to be recognized later this evening. But to see him be recognized by our alumni as well as a professional association was top-notch. And so congratulations to him as well as to our students that performed on Tuesday night, and it was wonderful to see such a great crowd at the concert on Tuesday. Additionally, I would like to thank Elizabeth Duperrin as well as Chef Tony and our Thurston Culinary students who hosted us in this space on Wednesday for dinner and discussion. And then on Thursday, myself as well as several Board of Education members had an opportunity to go to Western Golf and Country Club, in which we celebrated our students from Thurston High School that are graduating with the highest of honors. And truly, we talk about students, staff, and families, and that was the pinnacle of the evening last Thursday at Western Golf and Country Club. And just a phenomenal night, and the Thurston High School administration did an incredible job that evening, coupled along with Monique Kincaid and Nikki Ogden, and successfully organizing a wonderful event in celebration of our students, staff, and families on a very special evening. On Friday, some of you may have attended the Arts, Beats, Eats, and Reading that took place over at Fisher Elementary School, and it was very well attended, in which it is just as it sounds, Arts, Beats, Eats, and Reading that took place at Fisher Elementary School. And so despite some of the raindrops, it was a wonderful evening, and it was great to see our community together. And kudos to Chris Coos, the principal over at Fisher, and her staff for organizing a successful event over at Fisher. I would also like to take a moment to recognize our Family Consumer Sciences teacher over from Thurston High School, Mr. David Julian, who continues to be recognized by the Michigan Association of Family and Consumer Sciences. For those of you that might not know, Mr. Julian was recognized by the Michigan Association of Family and Consumer Sciences last year for being Teacher of the Year for Family and Consumer Sciences. He continues to be recognized for his outstanding work serving as an executive board member as president-elect. So congratulations to Mr. Julian. Also congratulations to Rachel Bomfrey, who is also a teacher over at Thurston High School, who leads up our poetry club. Some of you may have attended the Detroit Youth Poetry Slam that took place a couple of weeks ago. Underneath Mrs. Bomfrey's leadership, we had 6 students that were recognized and competed during the Detroit Youth Poetry Slam that took place. Mieko Bell, Meredith Gillespie, Morgan Rouser, Kenneth Williams, Caleb Smith, and Kiana Mills. Kiana Mills happened to win, and so she won and is now a part of the Detroit Youth Poetry Troupe. So congratulations to all 6 of those students. As well as to Ms. Bomfrey as well. Last, certainly not least, Principal Mr. Desmond Smith from Pierce Middle School is in the crowd this evening, as is Ms. Carrie Pastor, who successfully led and organized and orchestrated a field trip to Washington, D.C. for some of our 8th graders. And Mr. Smith, along with Mrs. Pastor, as well as Mrs. Shambo, and David Moy and Jesse Williams, led a successful field trip for our 8th graders from Pierce Middle School to Washington, D.C., and got to tour the monuments and the sites of Washington, D.C., and also had opportunity to connect with our very own Congresswoman, Rashida Tlaib, while they were there. So thank you for successfully leading our students and helping them become productive members of society. So thank you so much. Much appreciated. And with that, Madam President, that concludes my communication this evening.
Thank you, Mr. Bob. Next item on the agenda is board communications. Do I have any? Next item on the agenda is comments from the audience, topics related to the agenda. There are none. Next item on the agenda, Mr. Bob.
Thank you, Madam President. At this time, I'd like to turn it over to Mr. Kinsey.
Thank you, Superintendent Mr. Bob. So this is a great night. So we're honored to this evening to recognize our 8 South Redford retirees. On behalf of all who make up the South Redford School District, we'd like to express our deepest gratitude for the years of service. Each one of you has played an integral role in shaping the minds of our students and contributing to the success of our district. Your dedication, passion, and commitment have not gone unnoticed. As you embark on this new chapter, remember retirement is just a fancy word for a never-ending weekend. Now Mondays will be your favorite. No more counting the days to the end of the school year, and the only pandemic shifts will be from the bed to the couch. So here's your endless summer vacation filled with joy, relaxation, and 0 alarm clocks. Thank you for your service and congratulations on your well-deserved retirement. May this chapter in your life bring you endless joy and fulfillment. Now let's move on to the highlight of our gathering. So I will have the honor of calling each retiree up to present them with their service belt, which stands for a symbol of their timeless dedication. In addition, we'll hear some heartfelt words from respective principals and our SREA President, Bill Dyer. So without further ado, we will begin with Michelle Demiriak. Mr. Smith? Oh. I'm the new guy.
So we're going each one on that? No, it's fine. I had the opportunity to inherit Mr. Demoriak a few years ago as a building principal here at Pierce, and all I knew was Mr. Demoriak was this amazing teacher, right? So every year I get an opportunity to observe Mr. Demoriak, and Ms. Demoriak, she's not your regular middle school teacher. She could definitely be at U of M, Wayne State. She could be at one of our major top universities anywhere and do an amazing job teaching some of the most amazing minds in the Midwest and around the country. The way that she teaches her students and manages the classroom is top notch. I don't have a lot of stories because I'm not a story type of person, but what I do know is that Ms. Demoriak, she cares for the learning of our students. She does an amazing job planning, preparing, and producing an amazing product for our students each and every single day. I had the opportunity to go in her classroom maybe 3 or 4 weeks ago. Remember, she's retiring. She had a lesson where I was sitting there taking notes and learning. I forgot that I was doing an observation. I was literally participating with the students. That's how engaged I was. So, and I learned. And I learned that, and that just tells you the quality of teaching that Mr. Demoriak has day in and day out. She didn't know I was coming that day. I said, hey, do you mind if I come into your class? Sure, come on in. She wasn't mailing it in. She was doing an amazing job from the beginning of the day, from the beginning of the year, from the beginning of her career, up until a couple weeks from now. So I'd like to honor you. I appreciate all the work that you do for our students. My daughter also had the opportunity to be in her advisory class during the pandemic where they sat in there like all day. So my daughter had an opportunity to build a relationship with Mr. Moriak and Lil Abby. And they had a great time running up and down the hallways during the pandemic learning days. So thank you, Mr. Moriak, for all the work that you do. And I appreciate everything that you've done for our students.
Smith, don't go anywhere. Next up, and sorry, Mr. Mariak, she was with the district for 30 years. So thank you, Mr. Mariak. Next, we have Ms. Pappas. Ms. Pappas is a special education teacher over at Pierce and with the district for 26 years. Thank you, Ms. Pappas.
I really feel like Mr. Hall should speak about this one because they have a very special relationship. But I also inherited Ms. Pappas. I met Ms. Pappas years back as well when I started at Thurston. She was walking the halls. She looked exactly the same. I was always like, who is this beautiful woman walking around with butterflies in her hair? So Ms. Pappas, she is one of our special education teachers, but she has this heart for every single person that she meets. There's not a day that goes by where I'm wondering if any student is not in good care with Ms. Pappas. She takes care of students that are in need and students that don't know that they're in need. She pulls them in, she takes care of them, she talks with their parents, she gives everybody her cell phone number. Everybody her cell phone number, and she loves communicating with them. She's the best communicator and relationship builder, most likely in our building. She has the most caring, kind heart, and I just wish that she came back next year because she's definitely going to be missed. The work that you do with our students, it's just amazing what you do with our students. And the love that they have for you, they're ready to run through any wall for you. So I appreciate you, I thank you, and if you can come back next year. Back to you. But thank you so much for your service, and I appreciate you. Thank you.
I would also like to say a couple things, and I don't have anything prepared at all, but I feel like, Ariana, you are someone who, when our parents are going from the 5th grade, going to the middle school, the scary middle school, I say, she's got you. You know, they're like little ducklings behind you, those little kids that are just not quite ready, they're a little afraid about going there, and I know that you've got their back and that they are very excited and you make me feel welcome. So that has been great to work with you as the director for the last 7 years. And then I know that you've got the paperwork too. Like, I'm like, okay, wait a minute, we've got this, or, you know, we've got too many, you know, students, and our staffing has been a challenge, as you know. And you're like, no worries, I can do this, we'll rearrange things so that everyone is covered, and you just make it happen. And I was thinking of, you're giving everyone your phone number and also answering when you shouldn't, because I would have some random question, and I think I called you once and you were in Greece and you answered the phone. I was like, what are you doing? I was like, you cannot be answering the phone right now, and you always do.
I'm talking with you.
Well, and I was talking with you too. So you are going to be greatly missed. I don't know what I'm going to do without you, honestly. So I appreciate everything you've done.
Bless for all of like everybody.
You will be very missed, and I am glad you're looking out for you and your family, and sometimes you have to do what's best for you, and I hope that means you're going to enjoy your retirement. So, okay. And I'm sitting down.
So Mr. Smith has my work cut out for me because Mr. Smith will have another teacher who's retiring, a social studies teacher from Pierce, 27 years of service, Ms. Vermiglio. Thank you.
And another one. So, Ms. Vermiglio, I love you. She is the kindest person in the world. Ms. Vermiglio, she came, was mostly in elementary, spent a lot of her time in elementary school, and that that heart of an elementary teacher is what she uses while she teaches at the middle school level, which is not very easy to do because middle school students will run all over you if you're kind to them. But whatever she does it out of kindness. The things that she does, the lessons that she teaches, the way she manages her classroom, the way she builds relationships with her students, it's all out of the kindness of her heart. And I love how you do that. I love how you teach your students. I love how you interact with them. I love the way that you have just grown and learned how to teach middle school, because it's not an easy task to do. So I sincerely appreciate that. I love the relationships that you build with your students, even the knuckleheads that are in there day in and day out. But we sincerely appreciate all the work that you've done over these years. And Mr. Emilio has also been like our utility person. You know, on a baseball team, you gotta have that person that can do everything. That's Ms. V. She taught world cultures, and we said, hey, we need someone for 7th grade. Okay. And then a couple years ago, I said, hey, we need somebody for 8th. She's like, wait a minute. But then she said, okay. And she joined in, and she did it because it was what the building needed. The building needed her, and we thank you so much for everything that you've done. Thank you for always a yes, and thank you for the kind and sweet spirit that you have. It brings joy to every teacher in our building and to every student that runs into you. So thank you so much.
We actually have a few other retirees who unfortunately could not be with us tonight. Is Ms. Clayton in the audience? Okay. So Ms. Clayton was our media and communications teacher over at Thurston. I want to thank her for her 28 years of service. We also have another Thurston teacher, our band director, Mr. Edward Lucius, who has been with us for 34 years. From my understanding, it's only been 3 band teachers ever since Thurston was built, and he was one of them. Does that sound right? Yeah. So thank you, Mr. Lucius, for your service. Mr. Smith is actually losing another teacher, but she unfortunately couldn't be with us tonight. Ms. Tanya Hubbard, who is the media specialist over at Pierce Middle School. We want to thank her for her 30 years of service. Also at Thurston is our history teacher, Mr. Jason Brader, who is with us for 25 years. I want to thank him for his 25 years of service. And then one other retiree, this year the board knows her well because she is our district data coordinator, and she attends a lot of our board meetings and keeps the district in line in terms of data and other things as well. Ms. Mary Ruth Bird, and we would like to thank her for her 23 years of service. So just one more round of applause, please, for our.
Well, thank you so much. I'm going to try to read here. This is a little bit different for me because every year as I keep getting older, the retirees keep getting closer. And it's kind of a little scary for me, but you know, that's really amazing to see you 3 years, which is pretty incredible. But tonight, like most years, on behalf of the SRE Executive Board here and our nearly 200 members that I represent, Amy and I and Stephanie are here, and Brian's here too. Majority of our Executive Board here is here tonight just to recognize the great work that you guys have done here for South Redford for all these years. And this is really personal for me because I look at the 3 of you like more family than anything. You know, you could call us colleagues or whatnot, but as Desmond would know, or Randolph would know, being in that middle school, that's like being in the trenches, you know, and we've handled it for a long, long time. So for that, for your commitment to all those kids and that love that you gave to them and that compassion that you gave to them all those years that they needed that, I can't thank you enough for that. Just on behalf of all of the people that have worked with you, worked for you, your colleagues that we've worked with for so many years. It doesn't matter whether you're sitting here tonight, I would consider you family. And that goes way beyond even those times in the classrooms or in the hallways or on field trips or at parties where Arietta is winning my money all the time. It goes beyond all that.
Cedar Point.
Or Cedar trips to Cedar Point. But you know, like, so we have that commitment and that bond to each other that may not be exact family, but can never be broken. You know, all those experiences that we experienced together. And I'm certainly going to miss seeing you guys here, and it just a little piece of my heart goes out because you guys are leaving. So a little bit of my extended family is gone. So That's really going to be a little bit tough. But we have been so lucky to have you guys here for so many years. It's been such a blessing working with you, and such a joy working across from you or with you, and just being friends in general. And our families kind of grew up together. You know, we always said for Pierce for years, people would go to Pierce forever and never leave. And we just called ourselves our Pierce family. That's what we all called ourselves. We all had our own families, and we had the Pierce family. And we all stuck together, we hung out together, we cut our teeth in those rooms together, and you guys know exactly what I'm talking about. You know, those were great times, and we learned a lot from each other. So moving forward, obviously, we hope you have many adventures, hope you have great health, and you have all those things that you desire moving forward. And I'm so happy for you guys, I can't tell you. So we bought some gifts for all of our retirees every year, and Amy's here to help me pass those out for you. So they're all named for you personally, okay? And again, we just want to thank you for everything, for all that you've done.
It's Tiffany colors, but it's
I
not
was gonna
really.
say. It seems to be a little bit of box.
So once again, I would like to thank you for all your support of all of my friends here too as well, all of our SRE members, all of our retirees. We really appreciate all that you do for us. Thank you so much again.
Thank you.
Next item on the agenda is, oh, sorry. Yes, go ahead.
So we're going to shift our focus just a little bit now to another group of exceptional educators who have shown unwavering commitment to our students and our district. Today we have the privilege of recognizing 4 teachers who have reached a significant milestone in their careers, achieving tenure. So achieving tenure is no small feat. It requires dedication, resilience, passion for what it is that you do. These teachers have demonstrated all of these qualities, and even more so because they did it amidst of a global pandemic called COVID-19. Their adaptability and commitment during these trying times has been nothing short of inspiring. So without further ado, I would like to ask each of these teachers to stand and receive an applause of appreciation as I call your name. Please stand. So this first teacher teaches 4th grade over at Adams Elementary, Miss Stephanie Smith. Our next teacher couldn't be with us tonight. She's an interventionist. She transitioned from Fisher over to Jefferson. I had the opportunity to work closely with her as my interventionist, so I got super lucky, did a fantastic job. Miss Jamie Turco. I see this young gentleman here tonight. This teacher teaches 5th grade over at Fisher, Mr. Aaron White. And I saw this teacher walk in, teaches my favorite subject. Teacher teaches 8th grade math over at Pierce, Miss Carrie Pastor. Congratulations on your achievement. Your hard work and dedication have not gone unnoticed. We're proud to have you as part of the South Bedford family, and stay for many more years. Don't do what these guys did. All right, thank you.
Next item on the agenda is the consent agenda. Do I have a board member willing to adopt the consent agenda?
To the chair,
Yes,
I'd like to move the adoption of the following resolution, please.
support. It's been moved by Mrs. Fletcher and supported by Mrs. Curry. All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Nay. Resolution adopted. Next on our agenda, we will have a break for about 15 minutes to congratulate our retirees at 6:56. Next item on the agenda is presentation district behavior committee.
Thank you, Madam President. At this time, I would like to turn it over to Holly Palmieri, Lisa Horvitich, Mr. Desmond Smith, and Rachel Wicker for our behavior committee activity for the Board of Education.
You could stand for with me.
Yeah, you're on the behavior committee. Yeah. Carrie's on our team. Valuable. Thank you for allowing us this opportunity to connect with you tonight and share some of the work that the committee has been doing. We truly recognize this is just not the work of the 4, 5 of us. It involves many, many people. So we have K-12 teachers on our team, admin, support staff. This year on Wednesday, and the work that we're doing is really trying to revolutionize our supports that we give for our students in the social emotional learning area. And so we always start with so just to introduce ourselves.
Oh, yeah.
This is
My name is Desmond Smith,
Thank you.
Principal of Pierce Middle School.
Lisa Horvitich, Director of Student Services.
Carrie Pastor, 8th grade math teacher at Pierce.
Rachel Wicker, District Behavior Coach.
Holly Palmieri, District Behavior Coach. We always go back to this graphic. It's been used many times around the district for different settings, but we talk about how controlling children's behavior with rewarding consequences is basically just trying to rip off the dandelion. And we know that to truly get rid of a dandelion, you need to get the roots out. You need to go down to the roots. Not that we're trying to get rid of children, it's just a metaphor for taking care of the root. So when we do this work and when we use this lens, we always think about the 5 behavior roots. What is the unmet need of the student or the staff member? Because this is just not student work. What is the lagging skill? What is the unsolved problem? How can we solve it together with shared decision making? What are some beliefs that might be limiting? And what are some systemic barriers? And that goes very intertwined with our restorative work and our equity work. So we use this as a lens when we look at our supports and our systems and our, most importantly, our students. So our driving questions for this group, we look at beliefs and mindsets. What are beliefs in supporting kids? What are the skills we have? What training do we need? We know this work always is evolving and needing new skills for everybody, from, again, paraprofessionals to administrators. System drivers, what systems of support do we have? What systems of support do we need? So those are our driving questions for the work. Our goals for the committee, most importantly, we'd like to be clear and consistent in our supports and our systems. It's very trauma informed when you have that lens of clarity. It helps people move within a system when it's predictable. So we're continuing to build those supports and those systems. And then secondly, refine and review those systems regularly using data. And data is not just the numbers, the graphs, and the behavior reporting, but what people say and what they don't say. So we're constantly talking to students, staff, administrators, community members about the climate and the buildings. And finally, to provide voice to the level you are representing. The people that sit on this committee represent K-12 from all different types of roles. And we do this through the lens of creating that safe and nurturing environment. That's most important to us. All right, so the way we structured tonight is to go through the elementary, middle, and high school work that we've done. So starting at the elementary level, Rachel and I are going to tag team this, and then we'll get with Lisa, and then we'll get on to the middle school and high school. And Carrie, if you'd like to jump in too at any point, feel free. So starting with the tiers.
Yes. So one of the first areas of need that were identified were trying to systematize the way that we respond to behavior. So when we look at behavior supports, we look at those supports through a lens of tiers. So your tier 1 support would consist of the majority of your students, 80 to 85% of students. And Then our tier 2 supports were students who might benefit from a little bit more individualized supports, and our tier 3 would be our most individualized supports. So one area we wanted to look at was creating a system for addressing all those different levels of support that was just a bit more consistent across the district. The other area of need, another area we looked at was implementing reset rooms, which we're going to talk a little bit more about across the elementary level.
And looking at the restorative work, Elizabeth Duperrin and I have trained about 100 staff members and paraprofessionals. We even trained kids care staff at our last training. So we have really fully dove into that work and thinking about how we can expand it. This year we're looking into more coaching, more training, more in-classroom practical experience when it comes to restorative work.
Okay, so some supports and systems that we've implemented this year. We created some more systematic tier 2 and tier 3 processes for teachers to be able to obtain support across the elementary levels. And we also worked on tightening up what our tier 2 and tier 3 teams look like to address those different needs. So who is involved in supporting students at those different levels.
In our elementary and middle schools are PBS schools. So we constantly look at how we're celebrating school-wide, and we have, thankfully the pandemic has allowed us to, the pandemic ending has allowed us to have more town hall meetings where all the students come together and celebrations for the cleanest bathroom and the Eagle Awards, and they take regular data on improving recess and hallway expectations. And so getting back to those celebrations has affected the climate and culture of those elementary buildings tremendously this year, getting back to that joy and celebrating it regularly.
We also have started refining our paraprofessional coaching, so making sure that all of our paraprofessional staff members who are working to support students throughout the building have access to the support and training they might need to support students from tier 1 all the way up to tier 3 supports.
Restorative focuses on 80% of the work you do is proactive work in restorative training. So those would be our morning meetings that we have with students. That is the greetings that we have, the small conversations, the ways to engage in community at our elementary level is the proactive work versus the 20% of the time that you spend as responsive circles. So there's been harm done and you go and you work through a systematic process to repair that harm. Moving forward, now that we've trained a lot of almost entire staffs at the elementary level, we're going to move into more of that in-person coaching and classroom coaching and really putting that transfer of ownership back into the classroom teacher that has been trained.
And then we've started reset space implementation at the elementary level. So the level of implementation varies a bit by building at this time, but we've started that process.
So I just kind of want to comment, sort of our next steps have been informed by some of the things we've already implemented and sort of seeing the direction we need to continue with. I know that Rachel and I partnered with Elizabeth Duperrin and shared some staff training at Pierce Middle School, and I've offered that to other buildings as well, really just tightening up the processes. And then coming to the student needs, the individual needs, we've kind of realized that some of our processes that we had in the past sort of went by the wayside the year prior, and coming back to having wraparound meetings and looking at really great discussions with general ed teachers about how to support students, use some of the things we've always had, like check in, check out, and other tiered processes for supporting students. So that has helped us really see the need for continued work. You know, the crisis planning and support, I'm gonna kind of put my hat over here to Mr. Cooper. Is it Mr. or Officer? I'm not sure. Mr. Cooper now, not Officer Cooper. He's been partnering with Kyla Page, our assistant principal at the elementary, to kind of look at some training for crisis intervention and crisis plans. And if you want to take a real quick moment to kind of...
Real quick, what we're doing is the like a comprehensive school threat guidelines. And developing a foundation of creating what we can do to reduce any school violence, that sort of thing, to when it gets beyond this, so to speak, where do we need to, or how can we give the help back to the student and back to the child back to the teacher to bring them back to and keep them in school and keep them progressing along the lines that they need to do. But we have to have everything covered from A to Z. And unfortunately, a lot of my job is on the Z side of it, but with the ultimate goal of getting them back to A, B, and C.
We're also having some discussion about how that folds in with our work related to the Suicide Prevention Coalition, as you know, because Brian, he still keeps calling me. I'm like, you're retired now as a superintendent, but I keep still getting calls from Brian because he's a participant and actually one of the, he's the committee chair for, this through GrowthWorks. They were kind enough to support the Western region districts that are participating in that, and we know that sometimes crisis prevention and suicide prevention and all those social emotional needs go hand in hand, so one isn't completely separate from the other. So we're having some discussions about how we can kind of look at things as a whole, but while also still kind of looking at those supports folded within how we look at behaviors that we see in the schools. Again, continuing in refining that reset space implementation. We got a good start and we kind of need to continue in that movement forward. And one of the things we've noticed, I remember, I'm going to mention it, pre-COVID, I did a training with all the parapros and the monitors, had it, August 2019. I think what we've seen is that we have, support staff that onboard after the start of the year. So it has to be more of a continuous process and looking at how we might give those staff more resources to support them as they also are supporting our students. So doing a little more consistent training and having more procedures around how we're using our paraprofessional staff. Also looking at how to build teams so that we're supporting behavior at all tiers. I know you're going to speak about sort of the efforts at the middle school, and also continued restorative practices training as well as coaching for all of our staff.
So I'm going to speak a little bit more to the reset room implementation, just because it is a newer area for us and it's an area of focus for this year, but also solidifying our practices moving into next year. We'll also have a heavy emphasis on them. So I'm just going to speak a little bit to what they are and what their purpose is. So what's a reset space? It is a space that supports getting kids regulated and ready for learning. If needed, it can also be restorative, so it can help students repair harm that might have been caused by a behavior that happened. It also teaches students to identify feelings and build positive coping strategies. What is it not? So it's not a space for timeout or in-school suspension or breaks for that student. So there are two different options for use of the spaces. One is through our consequence continuum, and this is specific to the elementary level. Desmond's going to speak a little bit to what this looks like at the middle school level and what it will look like going into next year. But specific to the elementary level, there are consequence continuums that just provide a behavior response framework for our classroom teachers, and the reset space is part of that. Another option is structured breaks for students who might need to regulate, and that's part of that plan, and it's done in a structured way. So I'm going to very briefly go over this. It just talks about, again, speaking to the purpose of the reset space. So when we're thinking about the brain and getting students ready for learning, there are different areas that we think about. The first is the brainstem. So the back of the brain, that's where our fight or flight response is activated. And when we are operating from this part of the brain, learning can't happen. We have these hormones that are released: oxytocin, cortisol, adrenaline. And it's really great for emergency situations. But when those hormones are released repeatedly over time, it can cause structural changes to the brain, as we see by some of our students who are impacted by trauma, and it makes it much more likely for them to respond in that fight or flight way under typical circumstances. So it might seem like they don't have a trigger. And then we get into the middle part of the brain, which is where people are basically looking to form the human connections. So you might see testing boundaries, challenging authority, and that's where we're working on building trust and healthy connections with our students. And then finally, if we can get all the way up to the front of the brain, where the prefrontal lobes are, that's where learning can take place. So all of that to say that before students are ready for learning, they have to feel safe and connected. So the entire purpose of the reset space is to get our students operating more towards the front of the brain. And they've been designed with that purpose in mind. And the other goal is to teach accountability, self-awareness, and self-regulation. There's a link. So there's a brief video of one of the spaces that we put into place. It looks a little bit different now, but it does just kind of take you through what our students might experience when they're entering the space and speak a little bit to the purpose and tools available to them. So it's about 6 minutes. Here is the Fisher Reset Space. So there's a QR code on the door that staff can use to track students who come into the room and what interventions are being used. So first we have schedules, depending on if the students are using the space for a break or as part of the consequence continuum. So the first thing would be to reset their bodies and make sure they're regulated. So we would come over here, and if they need to move, there's a menu here. So we have exercise balls with directions on use, and there's an under desk bicycle pedal situation. There are cards with different quick activities to move, and then there's some yoga activities with yoga mats on the other side here. And there's even a can crusher, which is used in some programs. Students can write whatever they would like on the can and then physically move their body to crush that. So that's kind of cool. If they need to rest instead of move, then they have a separate menu over here. So there's some calming cards, some breathing strategies and other calming strategies, quick puzzle, coloring sheets over here, and then there are just some cozy spots for them to sit. And there's the options for music, and there are some lotion and things like that over here. Here are where all of the calming strategies are. If kids need to do any special breathing exercises or anything like that. So once kids have completed one of those activities and are feeling a little bit more calm, then they would come over here to check in with how they're feeling. So depending on their age, there are some different options and resources here. So once they've checked in with their feelings, then if it's part of the consequence continuum, they would be coming over here to do the restorative piece or repair the harm that was caused. So you can see here the restorative questions made a little bit more visual so that all of our students can access it. When you get to the last step, how can you make this right? This is where we have different options to repair whatever harm was caused by the behavior, and the reset room supervisor will guide them through this. So active service would be something like if you made a mess, maybe cleaning up another space in the school, helping your teacher prep materials that were destroyed, those types of things. There are different templates, for apology notes depending on age and ability, reflection projects, lessons about feelings online, goal setting, empathy project. All of these resources are available in this binder for the reset space supervisor. So here are their procedures at the very beginning here for the adult running the space, and then here are all of the resources for those different activities. So you can kind of see there's goal setting pages and apology templates. There's a body scanning activity for kids to circle where in their body they're feeling different things. So they will then make a plan with their teacher and fill out the reset space pass, and it'll include on there which the teachers will sign how their plan for repairing the harm and their plan for their plan to prevent it from happening again, whatever the behavior was. So then the very last piece would just be a quick focusing activity, and this is to check for regulation and make sure that kids are calm before returning to class. So again, over here, there are some different visual options for them. They can choose one of these quick focus activities, or again, a very quick puzzle or coloring page. This is another puzzle activity. Lazy 8 breathing. Over here is a research-based strategy. And then they would be returning to class. And over here, we just tried to align the reset room rules with the behavior matrix that we use as a district at the elementary level. So that's the space.
Okay, so who knows how to get us,
Chris
that?
is doing
Oh,
it, yeah.
look at that, okay. I'm
Chris
probably
is-
gonna mess something
Yeah,
up.
Chris is doing it, Lisa.
Oh, okay, good. Thank you, Chris.
Take it.
It's like magic,
Yeah.
when it works well.
All right, so that takes us through the elementary, some of the things that we're putting in place now and into the next year, and next would be middle school.
I can be Vanna.
This is my only slide.
We don't have many
okay.
slides, yeah.
I should be brief. So at the middle level, a lot of the same areas of need. We wanted to expand our restorative space and the work that we're doing. Many of our staff members, including hall monitors and parapros, have gone through the restorative work and the training. So a lot of the people that are helping our students in those times of need have been trained and have the conversations right outside of the classroom if need be. We needed some, so these are things that we needed. We also needed to work on our PBIS processes, increasing the power ticket process and empowering the teachers and students to kind of pick up on those things. More social emotional lessons, get a reset room. These are things that we needed before the year started. Peer-to-peer processes, Eagle Study Hall, regular restorative meetings between teachers and students, and then affective statement training. Things that we implemented this year, we started a reset room with a social worker in the room, mostly for the regulating processes for our students when they need to leave a classroom or leave any space because of their emotional issues that they were having. So they would leave the classroom or leave the cafeteria or whatever space they were in, and they would go to the reset room. We've made some adjustments as the year has gone along for it to be mostly for tier 2 processes and for students that really were in need, because we found that a lot of students were finding it as a nice, comfortable, safe place to go just to do some work because they didn't want to be in the classroom. So we had to kind of tweak some things, have some conversations with teachers, and the social worker who was in there, Ms. Ellie Welsh, did an outstanding job building this from the ground up. We talked to her about it last summer, and she didn't know what she was interviewing for. And we told her what she was going to do, and she literally just built it, just based off of the conversation that we had in the interview. So she's done an outstanding job. So she's one of the additional social workers that we hired this year. We have a general education MTSS soft rollout just within the last 3 months, multi-tiered systems of supports to help with our tier 1, 2, and 3 students. Everyone is tier 1 pretty much. Then realized that we needed to have some conversations with our teachers to assist with our students that need some tier 2 and 3 interventions. So we started that process and rolling out some things, some conversations with teams of teachers with how they can work best with our tier 2 and 3 students that need those interventions. We rebuilt our PBIS matrix, and we're continuing to work through our PBIS matrix by incorporating a couple other things. I'll talk about that. Then we have our SEL lessons through Second Step that are being taught more with more fidelity, I would say. We purchased Second Step 2 years ago, not knowing that the pandemic was gonna come into play, and it was more of a classroom-based system. They worked through it during the pandemic with their students in their advisory classes, and last year in class, they were trying to do the lessons, and then this year, you know, we were really like, this is really what we're going to do. So our teachers and students have been working through those social-emotional lessons, and there's a variety of things that they discuss in those second step lessons. We talked about that at the Pierce meeting when y'all came over to Pierce, so I'm not going to go back over all that stuff. And then we increased, like I said, our restorative training staff. We are trying to get every teacher to be trained so that they can have restorative circles at the drop of a hat. If anything happens in the classroom, they should be able to stop the class and have a circle, or, you know, schedule a circle weekly. When I was teaching, I didn't know what I was doing, but I was having restorative circles every Monday. When students came back from the weekend, we had conversations, we reset ourselves, and then we were able to laugh, and then we were able to start having class, because they were able to get all that stuff out of their brains about what was going on, any distractions, and then we were able to start class. So that's what we want our teachers and students to be able to do, is to eliminate the distractions, eliminate any conflicts, and be able to have class, and able to teach and learn distraction-free. So our next steps is increasing our crisis planning with Lisa and with Officer Cooper for a variety of students. Continue to refine our MTSS process throughout next school year. We're starting this year. We're just getting things started, but continuing on through next year with our teams, just kind of open it up for more students, because right now we're just kind of focusing on a few students and how the teams can work and work with the Tier 2 and Tier 3 students. And then continue our restorative training practices and coaching with our staff. And then we're going to roll out the PBIS matrix, and with an online power ticket platform that one of our teachers discovered, so we don't have to keep giving out tickets, because they kind of lose the tickets. They run around the building. You know, they put the ticket in their Chromebook, they put the ticket in their locker, they put the ticket in their pocket. And when it's time to turn in the tickets, they lost their tickets. So with it being online, you know, just boop, and the student has a ticket. They don't have to hold anything, and then they can turn in that ticket like it's kind of like a debit card. They can just pay for things, and it can be deducted from their account. So that's our plan to do next school year, on top of our houses that we're going to implement next school year. And that's a whole nother ball of wax, but it's something that we plan on doing where it's not divided by grade level. We'll have 8th, 7th, and 6th grade students all on the team, 3 different teams of students by all 3 grade levels. So it's kind of like a mentorship, along with students staying along the track with the same group of teachers for all 3 school years, so they can build even more positive, stronger relationships their entire time while they're at Pierce. So we have a few great things planned, and that's all I have. So I'm going to press the button, and one of these young ladies is going to finish this out.
Let's talk high school. So part of the challenges at the high school was, again, to train more staff in restorative practices. When we met, they really wanted to focus on affective statements, like advocating for yourself. I feel this when you do this, more talking and reflecting. And then really at the high school level, getting youth leadership, youth-driven leadership through clubs and activities. This year, the I-team or intervention team is beginning process, that MTSS process, and we're really looking at that K-12. The SRC took a little bit of a different approach this year, being more restorative. They added social skills groups, and they had defined caseloads of students that they mentored, and they're really happy with that model. They're seeing a lot of success with getting, again, to that root of the behavior. The CERT team, they regularly look at, with the equity lens, they regularly look at the code of conduct. They make sure that students are being treated equitably and fairly at the high school. Home base is that beginning part of the day. It was created to kind of have a soft start to the day, so when students are arriving late, they're not missing that core instruction. And so that was the dedicated time, and the staff really enjoys that time to get the day started. And then they have base, journey, link crew as part of their youth-driven leadership. Moving towards next year, again, crisis planning supports, which is a K-12, a pre-K-12 initiative. More training with the whole staff and using effective statements. They've just done recent training with Warm Demander, which is letting students know that you love them, but you have high expectations for them. So it's that balance between the two. Staff meeting time, they're talking about a strategy of the month and including that in staff meeting time as a way to sharpen those skills for high school teachers, working on those clear expectations. More work with small socials groups, working on anger management, grief and loss. We're seeing, I know in some of the circle work that I'm doing, a lot of students will mention a lot of loss over the past few years, and that's coming up first graders to 12th graders. So more work with that, with especially now that we have so many social workers and counselors now in our team. So helping students dive deeper into those social skills, and then continuing with that I-team process and how it relates to that MTSS planning. So that is, if a student is in class and they're not able to do tier 1 supports, what other tier 2 supports can we offer? What tier 3 supports can we offer for that student? So they're not just floundering in the sea of Thurston. So that's it for the high school, which brings us to, our final thoughts. We know that we don't do this work in isolation, that it's not just the 5 of us up here, it's you, it's the parents, it's the community, it's the children, and that we value doing this work consistently over time, and we have a lot of work to do to the initiatives that we've discussed, and we really would just like to thank you for your time to let us share our work. What questions might you have for us?
Looking at the restorative space, it's not an extremely large space, so how many young people or old people can fit in the space and it'd be productive? I look at 5 or 6 kids in that space and they may get distracted by someone else in there, so what's a good number? What does that look like?
Yeah, so that's a great question, and that's the largest space we have, actually. Just so most of the spaces are actually much smaller, but that's okay, because really we should only have 1 or 2 students in there at a time. And the reason behind that is we want to make sure that it's not a space where kids are just getting sent out of class or going there repeatedly. It's not like a go-to intervention. The reason is that we want to make sure that people are mindful about using a lot of the classroom interventions that we know support students as well. So it should really only be a small handful at a time at most. Typically, it's only 1 who might be in there at a time. Yeah. Yes.
So
sorry, that's the elementary. So
at the middle school level, our room, I didn't get to see that particular space, but our room is actually large. But the same thing for what Rachel said, only 1 to 2 students, maybe usually just 1. But then our social worker, Ms. Walsh, does groups. So she has small groups that she meets with periodically throughout the week. And so that has been a transition from first semester to second semester, where she's been able to get some girls together who maybe, or boys, there are girl groups and boy groups, where maybe they've had some conflict or something, and she helps them work through that. But then most of the time we just have 1 student. And sometimes, like, we make appointments for the students. We have the Smart Pass system at the middle school, and so usually we go in and we request that a student go to see her. But then sometimes, like today, I had a student who had a slight little meltdown, and I saw her in the hall and I pulled her and I said, are you able to meet with the student? So, you know, it just depends on the circumstances surrounding. So, yeah.
Anyone else have any questions? I have one. You say the rooms are small. How do you allow for if you have more than 1 or 2 students?
So that hasn't been a problem that we've come across, just because we do have so many other layers of support within the building. So it shouldn't be like a one-stop shop where kids are going there as soon as we see behavior challenges. The teachers have worked through many things before that space would be utilized. But in the event that there do need to be multiple students who are using the space, They just kind of need to get creative throughout the building. So it might be pulling in another staff member and using some of the similar tools, but in a different part of the building. As spaces are shifting, as we're looking at new construction and things like that throughout the building, some of them are actually probably going to be mobile spaces where a lot of those tools will be on potentially even rolling carts or stationed, so that we can be fluid and flexible to meet student needs, even given the challenges of space that we have, because that is a big challenge.
So you talked about the training of the teachers and the parapros. So they know what to do before they go to the...
Yes, so that, I apologize for the production value of that video. It was not meant for the board. That video was actually used as we were showing staff the different pieces of the room, and then we did more in-depth training with the staff members who would use spaces like that on a day-to-day basis. Yeah.
At Pierce, even though we have a classroom, we still tend to keep it down to 1 or 2 students because many times they want to have a private conversation with the social worker. And students don't want to have other people hearing the business. So a lot of times they'll call. It's a phone call first to make sure that she's available. And a lot of times she's walking around the building and she's not in the room, and she'll just grab the student, like, "Hey, Miss, what can you do?" And she just takes that student and go for a walk. A lot of times that's all the student needs to walk and talk. They don't always need to go to the room to have that conversation.
I also think it's kind of short term too. We don't want students missing instruction, or we don't want to create a situation where there's a reinforcer for them to miss like their class they don't enjoy. So it really is targeted.
In the video, it looks like it would take a really long time, but all of those pieces can be done in pretty brief moments, and we try to tighten it up with timers and those. So the goal is that students should be in there for no more than 15 to 20 minutes, so that it's not so they're not missing key instructional time. But they're ready to get back and learn still.
Thank you.
Welcome. Great job.
Next item on the agenda is consider custodial maintenance and grounds contract.
Thank you, Madam President. At the board meeting on May 8th, 2023, the board discussed the custodial maintenance and ground services contract. The district advertised a request for proposals and received 4 proposals, which were publicly opened at a meeting on March 31st, 2023. A committee comprised of the finance director, business office staff, the operations supervisor, board members, and district administrators reviewed proposals, heard vendor presentations, interviewed vendors, and checked references. After the committee carefully considered the costs and the conditions of the services provided by each company, ABM Industry Groups was determined to be the preferred company with the low and responsible proposal. Based on the results of the committee's thorough review process, I'm recommending that the board award the bid for custodial maintenance and ground services to ABM Industry Groups. Madam President, a resolution is attached for board consideration.
Do I have a board member willing to adopt the resolution?
To the chair,
Yes,
I'd like to move the adoption of the following resolution, please.
I have support. Mrs. Hicks. It's been adopted by Mrs. Fletcher and supported by Mrs. Hicks. All in favor?
Aye.
Nays? 7-0.
Yes, sir.
Yeah, it's been adopted by the board. Next item on the agenda is consider owner representative agreement. Mr. Bond.
At a regular meeting on May 8th, 2023, I presented a recommendation to the board regarding the contract for the district's owner representative. The district entered into an agreement with Lacole Planners LLC from July 25th, 2021 to June 30th, 2023. The district's owner representative manages various levels of technical, financial, and communication matters throughout the district's bond project. I am recommending that we continue the partnership with Lacole Planners LLC as the district's owner representative for the 2021 bond project with the attached agreement, which would commence on July 1st, 2023 through June 30th, 2026. The contract renewal document is attached. Madam President, a resolution is attached for possible board consideration.
Do I have a board member willing to adopt the resolution?
Madam President,
Yes.
I move the adoption of the following resolution.
Do I have a support?
Support.
It's been moved by Mrs. Early and supported by Mr. Winston. All in favor?
Aye.
Any nays? Seven ayes, 0 nays. Resolution adopted. Next item on the agenda is discuss and consider food service contract. Mr. Bob.
Thank you, Madam President. The board will discuss and consider the food services management contract. Each 5-year period, the Michigan Department of Education requires that local school district to advertise for bids. Bids were solicited and received for the work. The company that is recommended for the work required is Chartwell School Dining Services. Myself, as well as James Kinsey and Linda Earl, are recommending that this contract be awarded as recommended to Chartwell School Dining Services for the 23-24 school year. The contract, if approved by the Board of Education, will be for 1 year with up to 4 one-year renewals. The contract renewal document is attached for board consideration.
Do I have a board member willing to adopt the resolution? Mrs. Hicks, do I have a support?
Support.
Mr. All in favor?
Aye.
Any nays? 7 ayes, 0 nays. Resolution adopted. Next item on the agenda is consider band room flooring project.
At the board meeting on May 8th, 2023, the board discussed Thurston High School band room flooring replacement project. Bids were solicited and received for the work. The company that is recommended for the work required is Shock Brothers Flooring Incorporated in the amount of $40,450 to provide and install new flooring in the band room and adjacent office as well as storage room. A 10% contingency, total expenses not to exceed $44,495 is requested to cover any unforeseen costs associated with the project. The bid award would be paid for out of the 2021 bond. Madam President, a resolution is attached for possible board consideration.
Do I have a board member willing to adopt the resolution?
Madam President, I move to adopt the resolution.
Mrs. Early, do I have a support?
Support.
It's been adopted by Mrs. Early, supported by Mr. Winston. All in favor?
Aye.
Any nays? 0 nays, 7 ayes, 0 nays. Resolution adopted. Next item on the agenda is to consider Thurston High School, Pierce Middle School Chiller Project additional contingency authorization. Mr. Bowers.
Thank you, Madam President. At the board meeting on May 8th, 2023, the board discussed the Thurston High School and Pierce Middle School Chiller Project additional contingency authorization. At the board meeting on January 23rd, 2023, the board awarded the bid for the Thurston High School and Pierce Middle School chiller projects. The company that was awarded the bid was CSM Mechanical LLC for $463,750. The board also approved a 10% contingency for the project for any unforeseen expenses, total expenses not to exceed $46,375. In preparing for the upcoming installation of the new Thurston High School chiller, it was determined that there was a breach in the supply and return piping as they were circulating mud. Additionally, they are at the end of their life. The cost for replacing the supply and return lines exceeds the project contingency. The total cost of providing temporary piping and replacing the lines will not exceed $142,010.50. That is why I'm recommending that we replace the lines to best support the new chiller equipment that we have recently purchased for decades to come. An additional 21% contingency in the amount of $95,635.50 is requested to cover any unforeseen costs associated with the supply line replacement. Additional contingency expenses will be paid for out of the 2021 bond. Madam President, a resolution is attached for board consideration.
Do I have a board member willing to adopt the resolution?
To the chair?
Yes.
I'd like to move the adoption of the following resolution, please.
Do I have support?
Support.
It's been adopted by Mrs. Fletcher, supported by Mrs. Hicks. All in favor?
Aye.
7 ayes, any nays, 0 nays. Resolution adopted. Next item on the agenda, consider 2023-2024 Wayne Risa preliminary budget.
If you'd like. Thank you, Madam President. During the regular meeting on May 8, 2023, the board discussed the Wayne Risa preliminary budget for the 23-24 school year. Section 380.624 of the revised school code requires each constituent school board of Wayne Risa to participate in Wayne Risa's budget development process. Not later than June 1st of each year, each local school board must review the proposed budget, adopt a board resolution expressing its support for or disapproval of the proposed budget, and submit to the Wayne Risa board any specific objections and proposed changes the constituent district board recommends on the budget. The Wayne Risa board is then obligated to consider the specific objections and proposed changes. Madam President, a resolution is attached for board consideration.
Do I have a board member willing to adopt the resolution?
Before we go there,
Yes.
we had talked last week about putting Nisha on as the
Yes.
main and then me as the alternate.
That's on 16, we're on 15, Lori. Never mind. Yeah, we're just doing the budget right now.
Okay. Sorry.
To the chair,
Yes.
I move adoption of the resolution.
Okay. Mr. Winston, do I have a support? It's been moved by Mr. Winston, supported by Mrs. Early. All in favor?
Aye.
Any nays? 7 ayes, 0 nays. Resolution adopted. Next item on the agenda, discuss and consider Wayne Risa election. Mr. Byer.
Gladly. Thank you, Madam President. A biannual election is being held on Monday, June 5th, 2023, at 6 p.m. for 2 seats on the Wayne Risa Board of Education. The seats are for 6-year terms beginning July 1st, 2023, and ending on June 30th, 2029. These seats are currently held by Danielle Funderburg and Mary Blackman. Danielle Funderburg is an incumbent running for the re-election unopposed. Mary Blackman is an incumbent running for re-election unopposed. Per Public Acts 233 and 419 of 2004, local districts must adopt a resolution at a public meeting which names the party who is designated to cast ballots for ISD seats, intermediate school district seats. On May 8th, 2023, the board passed a resolution that designated board member Lori Hicks and alternate Misha Early to cast the ballot for June 5th, 2023, Wayne Risa board election on behalf of the South Redford School District. Per section 380.612 of the revised school code provides, the board shall consider the resolution at not less than one public meeting before adopting the resolution. On May 22nd, which is today, the board will discuss and consider a resolution that reconfirms the South Redford School District's designated electoral representatives and directs the designee which candidate the board supports for the position to be filled. This designated representative will be directed to cast a vote on the first ballot on behalf of the board. Madam President, the resolution is attached for board consideration.
This is the one.
Yes.
I will support it, but we gotta change this.
So it should be Misha Early as the board member and Lori Hicks to be the alternate.
Yes.
So you're adopting that?
Yes.
We have to discuss who we're voting.
They're both incumbents and
That's what I
nobody's
thought
running
we
against
had.
them.
I thought we had to do that last. Mary Blackman and Danielle Brunson. Okay, Mrs. Hicks. Do I have a support?
Yes.
Support.
It's been adopted by Mrs. Hicks and supported by Mr. Winston. All in favor?
Aye.
7 ayes, 0 nays. Resolution adopted. Next item on the agenda is consider updates to operation and orientation manual. Mrs. Fletcher.
At our last board meeting, we had a really good in-depth discussion. All the changes were recorded and it's come back in front of the board for adoption now.
Do I have a board member willing to adopt the resolution?
To the chair,
Yes, Mrs.
I'd like to move the
Fletcher.
adoption of the following resolution, please.
Do I have a support?
Support.
It's been moved by Mrs. Fletcher and supported by Mr. Winston. All in favor?
Aye.
Any nays? Resolution adopted. Next item on the agenda. Consider superintendent evaluation.
Shall I, Madam President?
I didn't think you should do that, but yes, go ahead.
Thank you, Madam President. Shall I?
Yes, go ahead.
Thank you, Madam President. At the special board meeting on May 15th, 2023, the Board of Education evaluated my performance using the Collins and Blaha Superintendent Evaluation Tool. The Collins and Blaha Superintendent Evaluation Tool is an evaluation instrument that allows the board to rate the superintendent's progress in 6 or 7 categories, including visionary leadership, policy and governance, instructional leadership, communications and community relations, organizational management, professionalism and ethics, and statutory factors. District student growth is also required as a consideration in the evaluation. The evaluation has been completed. Madam President, a resolution is attached for board consideration.
evaluation for our superintendent was effective. Mrs. Hicks, you're gonna adapt. It's been supported, it's been adopted by Mrs. Hicks and supported by Mrs. Early. All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
7 ayes, 0 nays. Resolution adopted. All right. Next item on the agenda is comments from the audience.
We have 6.
We have 6. Yes.
Okay. So just a reminder, when addressing the board, please state your name, address, and affiliation. The board welcomes comments from the public and values the input our stakeholders bring to the table. The president respectfully reminds all of us this is not a forum for debate. The board may choose to ask clarifying questions regarding an expressed concern, but will not respond to the concern at the meeting. You can expect a timely response from the appropriate individuals. Personnel matters cannot and will not be discussed in this forum. So when I'm gonna go in the order that these were turned in, and when I say your name, you can come to the podium and you have 3 minutes to speak. When it gets down to 1 minute, I'll give you a little reminder, just so you know. So the first one I have is Jamal Roberts.
Hi, my name is Jamal Roberts. Address 31048 Moorlock Street, Livonia, Michigan, 48152. My affiliation is I am the head coach of the Razor Aquatic Swim Team, competitive youth swim program for ages 4 all the way up through seniors, high school. We've been renting the pool at Thurston High School for our program since about 2009, 2010. That's been our home base for about a decade now. We've enjoyed our time there and here, and it's been great up until recently. There's been some serious concerns with the water, and it's not just for the children on my swim team. It also involves the children that go to Thurston because they use the same water. So we've had a few issues, but I'll start with the most pressing ones, given the time limit, and try to be as concise as I can be, even though a lot of the issues do require a lot of context to really see how concerned they are. So about a few months ago, I had swimmers that were letting me know that the water tasted a little bit different. Their mouth was drying out. Said, okay, we'll see how that works. But it got worse. Over a month ago, I had swimmers that were saying that they were experiencing more than just the dry mouth and the funny taste in the water. I had swimmers who were saying that they smelled a strong bleach-like smell, were having trouble breathing, they were coughing. Swimmers that had eyes that were burning, serious issues that when they were telling me about that, the next day I let the head custodian know and asked if the water had been, if the chemicals were being checked. And I was assured that yes, they're checked on a daily basis. And I said, well, please, just double check again. The next day I get in the water before my children do, because I test out the water to see what's going on. I experienced what they were telling me about the strong fumes, the dry mouth effect, and I called again to see, okay, did they double check to make sure that the chemicals were fine? I was told, yes, check again, everything checked out. Next day, we had the same issues, but this day it was a little bit worse. I had children that were coughing all over the place, had a kid that threw up on deck, and I had to cancel practice. And I said, well, you know what? We can't be, back in the water until I have some assurances that the water is fine. I get an email the next week, the Tuesday before we get back in the water, saying that Mark Taylor, the head custodian, and John Dunn, operations, I'm not sure his full title, both confirmed that the water levels are fine, everything is good. I get in the water again before I had my kids get back in. The water was much better than it was the previous week, but there was still, the dry mouth taste. And I was saying, well, this still doesn't seem right. I let John Dunn know that, and also reminded him because we had an issue a year ago when I was informing them, that the water levels were getting dangerously low in terms of temperature. And at that time, it was dismissed. I found out that the when the head coach from the team said something about it, they got on it and they worked on it. I tried to remind them, hey, I'm not just making things up. So the water was fine. I had an independent test done a couple of weeks ago, showed that the water was not good, that the chlorine levels were too high and the alkalinity was extremely low. That test was confirmed by Mark Taylor. He went to the same pool spot that I had the sample tested at, got the same results. They said that was taken care of, go back to the pool. I had it tested again. The chlorine levels were still too high and I was not warned beforehand before letting my kids know that. I let the school board know, said, well, you know what? You have kids that go to this school as well. You might want to jump on this and make sure everything is fine. This past week, when I've gone to communicate with people and reach out to people, I keep getting told I'm going to get phone calls. Those phone calls I don't get. I have to keep going up to, the person, at the high school when I go up to the office to let them know, don't have your kids in the water. I'm supposed to get a phone call from principal, don't get that. The next day, I'm supposed to get a phone call from John Dunn or whoever. Don't get that call, but I keep coming up to offices I'm not being communicated with. And most recently, a parent CC'd me on an email sent to, I believe it was you, about the pool concern. And then the response that was sent back was that the water is being checked and that there's being an investigation done. I would like to know what that investigation entails, what the results have been so far, who's conducting the investigation, because so far serious concerns have been dismissed, and it's not even just my kids that are involved. I'm saying you have children at this school that are also involved with that, and basically kids have been swimming in a pool now for months that was highly acidic. I have kids whose eyebrows are falling out, skin, hair getting bleached, skin irritations, all sorts of things.
Thank you, Mr. Roberts. Our superintendent will be getting back.
All right. When can I expect a response? Because I was told that, the assistant, superintendent was supposed to get back with me last week, and that did not happen.
But now I'm telling you that he will be getting back.
Ma'am.
Our next comment is from Kelly Cobb.
Hello, everyone. I'm Kelly. My son attends Thurston High School. He's been swimming on the swim team now for the last 2 years. He was also a part of the swim team for the better part of 10 years now, maybe. I am well aware of burning eyes and things like that. However, my son recently came home, maybe mid-March, and told me that his eyes were burning. At first, I didn't really take it seriously. However, he said it was persisting throughout the day. I flushed his eyes, I gave him Visine, nothing helped. My son is also on the aquatics team. That semester started this last semester, and he went through maybe October all the way to February or March on the swim team. And then that spring semester, he started with the aquatics team as an elective. He basically has been in the pool all year, so it's a major concern to me, mainly because I have not been informed. About 3 weeks ago, my son came home because I noticed that he wasn't bringing his swim equipment to school, and he told me that they'd been pulled out of the pool. And I had no, he said they were doing land activities. I didn't know why they were being pulled out of the pool. Until recently, Coach Roberts contacted me and let me know that this was going on. So I find it very concerning that no one has reached out to me, considering the fact that the pool levels have been so dangerously acidic and my son has been pretty vulnerable. So yeah, I just wanted to add that. My son is a current 10th grader at Thurston High School. Thank you.
Thank you, Mrs. Scott.
You're welcome.
Our next speaker is Kimberly Webb Horsley.
Good evening, Madam President and board members. I'm also a parent with Razor Aquatics. My address is 12900 Rayburn Lane, Plymouth Township, Michigan. I'm here not to be redundant, but I'm deeply disturbed by the fact that Razor Aquatic Swim Team has swam here for the past decade. They spent over $100,000 in fees that they paid to this district, presumably to maintain a safe pool. And our children are, as we said, they range in age from 4 to 17. And these kids, they participate in aquatics for a variety of reasons. My son has significant health challenges that preclude him from participating in other sports. And yet, we weren't made aware that he's swimming in water that's too acidic, it's too chlorinated. As we mentioned, our children have lost eyebrows, eyelashes, hair color changing. You all talked about anxiety and bullying in the substance of your board meeting. And so you can imagine what it's like when you're 13 years old and you have no eyelashes, you have no eyebrows, and what your children are encountering. And so this is not a minor issue. This is something that I hope that you all will take seriously. And if it's a matter of training, because it sounds like that the person who's responsible for maintaining the chemistry of the pool is incompetent at best. And if it's something that you all need to engage a third party to do so, I would think that the safety and the security of the children who swim in that pool would be of paramount concern to you. So that's the extent of my comments. I hope you take it seriously and someone will follow up with our coach, because this has been going on for far too long.
Thank you, Mrs. Smith. Our next speaker, hopefully I pronounced your name right, Quentin Cobb.
Hi, my name is Quentin Cobb. I go to Thurston High School. I'm in 10th grade, and me and my classmates have been complaining about like the taste in the water and the changes in our hair, stuff like that. It tastes like bleach a little bit. It's like very acidic, as they were saying. And yeah, it's been going on for like the past month, I would say, for aquatics, because my class is aquatics.
Our next speaker is Jennifer Matthews.
Good evening, Madam President and Board. My name is Dr. Jennifer Matthews, and my address is 20066 Stratford, Detroit, Michigan, 48221. I'm a parent of a swimmer with Razor Aquatics, and as everyone mentioned, we're deeply concerned. What I'll highlight would be a lot of the social emotional issues. I'm a licensed professional counselor and professor of counseling, and so as Kimberly mentioned, there are many ramifications in addition to the physical ramifications when swimmers are exposed to high chemicals, acid and chlorine. And so the social emotional, we already talked about the bullying, anxiety, but also you can imagine with the climate that we're in post-pandemic, depression can also become an issue. And then we haven't even talked about students and children that are having health concerns that were already there, pre-existing health concerns that could be exacerbated by the chlorine and by the acid in the pool. So as a parent, it's very concerning that this has been ongoing, that there has been a lack of communication, a lack of action from all levels within the school system. And as parents, we've talked about this being a public health concern and having wide ramifications like other concerns that we've had in our environment. Thank you.
Thank you, Mrs. Matthews. And our last speaker is Jimmy Jones.
How y'all doing? My name is Jimmy Jones, address 1412 Beecher Street, Detroit, Michigan, 48217. So, not to be redundant, but I just want to add a little seasoning and push a few hot buttons, because I think a couple things that's not being said, but it's very obvious here. This is a predominantly black swim team, and in that sport, that's a big deal. And so to be in this space, to be paying this money, to be fundraising at the level we're fundraising at, to be committed to a space, but knowing that we may have to find another space, that's what's being left out. We now are in a space where we got paying parents that's losing time in the pool with their children, who's traveling from all different places. The pride and just that sense of pride we have with the swim team, and then the issues we dealing with. And then knowing that how hard it is to even find another swimming spot at this time of year when school is getting out, it's just layers on layers on layers. But more importantly, I think that, you know, with Coach Roberts, the way he conducts himself, the standards and the principles and values we got on this team is what every school, every district say they, you know, represent. And we know in businesses and corporate spaces and in schools, everybody got all the values in the school, but it's a big gap between the actual values and how it's really being upheld. And so to me, I feel like another issue is the locker room. I heard y'all talk about contracts and custodians, and y'all kind of went down each different contract that's up for I guess y'all approved everything. I'm curious of how that process go, because every time, maybe it's the end of the day, but every time I'm in a locker room changing my 4-year-old son, 6-year-old son, I don't know about the girls' locker room, but it's filthy. It's filthy. So if, let's say this whoever got that contract, 90% of the school is 100%, y'all give it an A for the bathrooms in the school. We don't go in that space. But in the one space we go in 100% of the time, let's say that's 5% of your school, that's an F. I'm talking about, you talking about the wettest space in the school. Wetness, showers, the locker rooms, the trash cans not filled out, the 2 toilets, and they be filthy. I got a 4-year-old son, I gotta make sure I get mad when they walk around barefooted. They don't know what to do. It's sickening. Coming off of COVID, you got COVID, then you got filthy bathroom, then you got no paper towel, no soap, one or the other. One working toilet, stopped up, boo-boo, tissues, everything, so you got one toilet. I don't even want my kids using the bathroom there. I'd rather them use the bathroom out there where the pigeons is using it in the grass. I'm being for real. So I just gotta bring the passion to the space. And the other thing is the way Coach been dealing with the people. He was in a short time. He couldn't give y'all the context. The lack of character and integrity from the people he been communicating is sickening. I mean, the hoops he had to go through, he's very thorough, on point, professional. He should be running for some of the positions that we're unattested for. Everybody just got in. I see nobody. I don't know if there's only one person running for every position, but these are the type of people you want that's in this audience running for these positions. It should be some competition in this space, because clearly everything is just going through just approve, 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 approve. But we out here trying to set a standard for black kids in the city and sport that they not really prevalent in. So I hope this get dealt with and an apology is in order from everybody up the chain of commands that disrespected this, not only the coach, the parents, and the kids. That's all I got to say.
Next item on the agenda is plus Delta plan.
We got a hand back here.
Oh, we got a
hand back here.
Hi, I'm sorry. My name is India Hashem, and there's a few other parents here from Razor. We weren't aware that we were supposed to fill out a comment card for our
I'm
comment.
sorry. If it's pertaining to the pool.
Yes, ma'am.
I'm sorry, but we had the people that filled out, and I'm sure we'll get things together through our superintendent.
Okay, is there anything that we can do for it's 4 of us back here so that our comments can at least be submitted as well?
I'm sorry.
Okay, thank you.
So you mean to tell me it's not in the email? You can't send them, give them an email or some type of alternative option if they're not gonna speak in here? She says there any other option outside of speaking, respecting what you just said. They can't speak because they didn't know about the card, which it could have been a sign or something to kind of help people who coming in. But because they didn't have that, she's still asking if there are alternative ways to have their voice be heard. Who knows what else they might add that can help you all with your process. This is part of the problem.
Our superintendent will get with the coach.
All these professionals, all this education, and nobody got the leadership, transformational leadership skills to step in and at least understand that we can say something or respect the time that everybody spent here going through this whole meeting.
I'm sorry.
That's it, I won't say nothing else.
Thank you. Mrs. Davis.
Madam President, what processes of the board's work this evening?
I think for me, one of the things worked well is that we had that youth behavior committee. handout prior to the board meeting, so we can really look through it.
Anyone else? Thank you.
Madam President, Delta's opportunities for improvement will processes will help the board's work better.
Chair?
Yes.
I think it is a definite delta that people were here who wanted to speak and couldn't because they didn't know what to do. So I think that's definitely something that we need to do a better job of making clear. If it's a sign or something to make sure that the people who have comments, because we definitely don't want to be that board who feel like they can't voice what they have to say.
So this gentleman that just walked out, I didn't mean to cut you off, sir. He did just come back here and acknowledge he's going to get business cards for the people that weren't able to speak because he felt like it was important that he hears from us.
You did come.
So I apologize for it as well. I did.
So, yeah, I think that is
Yeah, he did that.
we do that. So, yeah, just making sure that we have some way of setting up that everybody can speak who wants to speak. So that's the one delta.
Other opportunities for improvement will help the board's processes.